Hey everybody, it's Jared with Second Life Design. I wanted to do a little bit different style video, not so much of a recording with a voiceover, this is a bit more just freestyling. I get a lot of questions on my Instagram about my sawmill, my chainsaw mill, and I wanted to take a few minutes and kind of break everything down and explain it in a little bit more detail about how I use it, why I started, maybe give some ideas for anyone wanting to get started into chainsaw milling, and just kind of an overall process of it and kind of the equipment I use. We'll start at this end. The power head is a Stihl MS661. Very powerful power head. This is the second largest power head that Stihl makes. This is not your average homeowner saw. This is lumberjack material. They rate it to carry a 41-inch bar, I think, maybe a 54. Maybe I think it's 41. I don't think they don't want you to go as big. As you can see, I have a 56-inch bar on it right now. The biggest thing I can tell people if they're getting into chainsaw milling is that it's a different kind of cutting than firewood cutting, than cross cutting. You can't get too concerned about speed. The chain profile, and we'll talk about chain profile a little bit, is way different than when you are cross cutting. So it's not about speed. I know that's the thing everybody wants to go by, that's the metric everyone uses, but when you're milling, it's a different kind of thing. You're going for the quality of the finished cut. You are going through, sometimes up to 40, 50 inches of material. You can't get too wrapped up in speed. I know that's counterintuitive, but it's just what you have to change your thinking when you're doing milling versus cross-cutting. But back to the power head. It has plenty of power. I've had one major kind of breakdown. I think I've resulted that, kind of put that cause onto fuel quality. I haven't had any problems with it since. I've milled some pretty big logs with it since. Haven't had any issues with it, so I think I got some fuel quality issues. But this is the power head I use, and it runs like a champ otherwise. This is the infamous clamp that causes everyone worry on how I'm gonna get hurt, how incredibly dangerous it is. I'm still here to tell the story, so there it is. That's what I use to clamp the throttle, so I can work from the nose end and get a little bit better control of the mill. The weak point now, I honestly feel like I have enough power. I could go up to a 66-inch or even a 72-inch bar, again, because I'm not too worried about speed. I just want to gain more cut width. I don't think the clutch would hold it. That's my weak point right now, is the clutch. It's really easy to stall and really easy to slip the clutch. So that's where I'm not limited in a sense. It's just a matter of I need to either find a little bit heavier duty or like kind of like a hot saw application where we have a little bit stronger clutch. That is what my weak point is right now. So we'll flip this thing over and talk about the other side a little bit and other parts of the mill. It is a 56-inch bar on here. It's from Forester. There's different manufacturers. This one works. I don't have any complaints with it. It works. So that's all I can really say. Talking about the chain, I do use ripping chain. So you'll notice this profile is about 10 degrees. Your standard chisel chain, cross-cutting chain, is cut at a 30-degree angle. So this is a lot flatter, a lot blunter. When I'm cutting, I get sawdust. I do not get curls, I do not get chips, I get sawdust. That is, whether that's right, wrong, or otherwise, that's the result I get. I have a very smooth finish. That's what I go for. That's less milling time later on down the road, less material to take off. It gives me a better idea of what the material is going to be. I cut all these slabs for furniture, so I need to be able to see them appearance-wise and kind of judge them for the projects they're going to turn out to be. I'm not making firewood, I'm not just bucking up logs for fun. So I use this material to make pieces of furniture. I need to see what the grain's going to look like. Getting a better finish by using this chain is important to me. There may be things out there, I may try experimenting with some semi-skip where there'd be, like this cutter would be gone, so it'd have more space in between. The big problem I fight a lot of times is getting the material out, getting the sawdust out, and that may help to mitigate that, to help get more space to get the dust out. So I may experiment with that. There's not a lot of resources for milling chain, ripping chain. There's, the regular, the Carlton and all those, they make it. It's not a lot of resources for it as far as what will work better and not. You can take regular chisel chain and cut a different angle on it. You can use like a grinder and cut a different profile. This is a brand new chain. I cut one log with it. It's still very, very sharp. So I can generally get 3 to 4 good sized logs out of one chain before it needs sharpening. Granted, I don't hit any nails, barbed wire, buckshot, anything like that. So come around this side, maybe get a little bit better angle on it. The mill itself is a Panther Pros. It works, it's steel, it doesn't bend. I don't know how accurate it is, but I've heard claims of some of the other manufacturers, they're using aluminum, they may bend. I've never seen it, I can't substantiate it. This one was a little bit cheaper, and it was a little bit smaller company. I wanted to support that. It's a good product, it took a while to get, I think just due to being a small company. No major complaints with that, I understand how that goes, but somebody could make this if you had some scrap steel and a welder. I didn't have time to mess with it, so I ordered theirs. The mistake I made initially was thinking I wouldn't go any bigger, so I ordered the 42-inch mill, and as you can see, I've got some extensions made up to handle my bigger bar. In a perfect world, I'd get longer rails that are all one piece. I do this because I switched from a 56 down to a 42-inch bar, and those rails will work with a 42-inch bar. So at this point, I don't need to change. It works for me now. If I was doing something a little bit bigger consistently, I would get longer rails. To this point, it works for me, so that's what I'm going to run. If I ever did get a bigger power head or different bars or anything like that, I would change things out and make it work according to that. But it's a pretty good setup right now. I've done a dozen logs, 13 logs, and it hasn't really given me any problems. It's held together and it works pretty well. Let me flip this thing over, kind of get a better idea of what it looks like when you're actually milling. So this is the way I see this thing a lot of times. The fuel and oil fill are still there. Air filter is really accessible. The adjustments for the mill for height. A lot of people ask how you get different thicknesses of slabs. These two bolts are adjustable. That raises this whole rail up to give me different thicknesses. That's really it. It's a pretty basic machine. I'm going to do a couple videos on different milling techniques, how to get started. Everybody wants to know how you make the first cut. I'm going to do a separate video on that, so just be patient, subscribe, and follow my Instagram. There'll be plenty of information on that. That's all I can really say as far as actual equipment. I spoke the other day about milling time. This thing is awesome. It's a lot of power. It sucks gas like you wouldn't believe. I mix up gas at 5 gallons at a time, and it's surprising how quick I will go through it. I probably got 55 gallons of gas through it at this point. I bought that power head last year. Yeah, I'm not a lumberjack, so I don't know how that rates compared to those guys, but it seems like a lot of fuel. But you know, this power head is close to 8 horsepower. It's like 7.7, I think. To get that much power, you gotta have a lot of fuel. That's what it takes. So I don't want to get this video too long, guys. Don't want to take too much of your time, but that's some of the generic stuff I could think of. Any questions, let me know in the comments. Send me a message on Instagram, on here. I can try and do a follow-up with it, but that is the equipment I use for my Alaskan mill. Steel 661, 56-inch bar, Panther Pros mill, stretched out a little bit. On straight line milling, where there's no crotch sections to go around, I can get almost 50 inches. I can get, depending on the bark, I can get right at 50 inches. Crotch sections, I've gone wider, kind of depending on how they're shaped. So if you're wanting to get started, my biggest advice would be get as big of a power head as you can get and go from there. That's where it all starts. It's like anything else where inevitably you will want to do bigger, you'll find bigger material, and just get as big as you can afford. That's the best advice I can give you right now. The mills and the chain and all that can all vary, and you know, experience on their own, so I can offer advice, but your experience may vary. But get the biggest power head you can afford, be careful, and make a lot of sawdust. Any questions, let me know. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.